Hello everyone, I'm Lauren and welcome to another video from the Tiny Menagerie. This is just going to be a little video about how you can tell the difference between your male and female Panda Corydoras. This might be because you're looking to breed your fish and you want to make sure you have at least one male and one female, or perhaps you're just curious about the balance in your school. Either way though, let's take a look at how you can tell them apart. First of all, and perhaps the most important part of sexing any Corydora species, not just pandas, is that you are going to have to be really quite patient. They are not the fastest fish to develop, and despite their very small size, you won't actually see any sexual characteristics developing in them until they're about 9 months to a year old, when they're getting towards being fully grown. Sexing juvenile fish, as far as I know, is pretty much impossible, and so if you're buying baby pandas, then it's well worth getting a good sized group, say at least 8 individuals, just to improve your chances of getting both genders. Otherwise you could have a very long wait and end up with a tank full of males. But so long as your fish are getting towards breeding age, then you can start trying to work out which of them is which. And certainly one of the most commonly mentioned methods of sexing Corydoras that you come across is to use their size. And while for some species, like Venezuelan blacks for example, then the difference between males and females is really obvious. In pandas though, this is a bit more challenging. The female is only about 5% bigger than the male. If you can view her from the top, then you will see that she is very slightly wider than he is. But individual fish do show a remarkable amount of variation in size. And if you're unfortunate enough to have a tank with just one gender in it, you might be lulled into thinking that the big one that's in there is the female, or that the little one is the male, when actually they're just natural variations of the same gender, and so you could be wasting your time. And so for me, by far the most reliable method I've come across for sexing Panda Corydoras is to look at their tails. Long before the females start to show any kind of real size difference compared to males, you will be able to see that they both have very slightly differently shaped tail tips. This is only a small detail, and luckily because Corydoras like to sit around a lot and watch the world go by, then it's easy enough to get a good look at them during their downtime. Looking closely at this female, you can see that her tail has a very gentle curve along the top and no sharp pointy bit towards the end. Whereas this male's tail has a much more exaggerated curve, it tapers off quite quickly, and it ends in a sharp point. And this is the same for both flukes, top and bottom. Both of them have this exaggerated curve to a sharp point on the males. Here you can see this is a female tail, with those blunter tips and the gentler curves, and this is the male. Again, with nicely pointed tail tips. It's only a tiny little detail, but it is always there, and personally I find tails far more reliable than size. The next aspect of your fish you can inspect is the shape of their faces. Females are rather stockier in the face than males and have a bigger gap in between their eyes relative to the size of the rest of their head, and their snout is also slightly longer with a more gentle curve down to the barbels. In general, this makes them look, dare I say, rather uglier than the males, who have a nice blunt snout and a quite narrow profile down the face. And it's the same story with the body. Females have a much stockier shape, and in paler, mature specimens, you can actually see eggs developing within them. Cory eggs are large, and so as they develop, you'll notice that the females have a pronounced, darkened patch behind their pectoral fins. This is those eggs showing through her skin, so in females who've recently laid, this patch will diminish, and then it'll grow back again over the next week or so until she's ready to lay again. Obviously in darker coloured Panda Corys this is completely unreliable and it's very difficult to see, but if yours are very pale then it's another telltale sign that you can look for. As I'm sure you can see, Panda Corydoras can be really quite challenging to tell apart, especially if you have a young group that's just coming into maturity. And sometimes, thanks to genetic variation, even these small details can throw you off. They can be really quite challenging to spot, which is why if you're looking to breed your fish, it is always better to buy a large group to increase your chances of getting both genders. Anywho though, I hope you've enjoyed this little video and it helps you in some way towards telling your pandas apart. Happy fish keeping everyone, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye!